Hi folks, Valentine's Day is right around the corner and maybe you're looking for a fun date night in or just looking for a couple of games that you can play with your significant other. Well, we've got you covered because today I'm going to be going over my 5 favorite board games for couples. I've always loved playing board games with the people that I love, family, friends, and especially, my significant other. That's something that Ryan and I both loved before meeting each other. And I think it's definitely like our love of games and stuff like that has brought us closer together as a couple. One of the things I really like about board games is it provides kind of that third point that it's like you two can both be having your attention on this third point. It brings you together. It gives you something to do other than just like sitting on the couch and watching something. You're engaged with each other. Some of the games you can kind of chat while you play. Others are much more like focused on this, but it still feels like, oh, we're doing something together. You're not just like existing in the same space. Now, not to say that, sitting on the couch and watching something together is a bad date night. Ryan and I definitely spend a lot of time doing that. And we both enjoy even just existing in the same room, doing our own things and getting to share that with each other. But I do think board games are a really great opportunity to, share a common interest. They're also a nice little gateway thing if you are a tabletop gamer and want to, maybe bring a spouse or a significant other into the hobby. Introducing them to board games first can be a good kind of hey, let's introduce this idea of games and sitting around the table together before we dive in the deep end with a TTRPG with role-playing and pretending to be a whole other person. Let's just move our little pawns around and collect cards and roll dice. Okay, so let's talk about the games. I'm going to talk about the first one. That's right back up here. Splendor. It has quickly become Ryan and I's go-to game if we're hey, let's have a game night. It has a very cool mechanic where you are collecting these tokens, these kind of modified poker chips that represent these different gems that then you use to purchase cards. And there are also nobles that you can get for bonus points if you get certain combination of cards. It is also a fairly fast game to both pick up and play. We have oftentimes played a whole game in under 30 minutes. So that's actually nice because we'll often play a couple of games of it in a single night. It also does not require a whole lot of space. Ryan brought this when I was in the hospital at one point and just kind of was well, I have to be here for observation. And he was like, I'll bring this and we can have a board game night. And the nurses thought that was adorable. So, you can play it on a little hospital wheelie bedside table. I almost said bedside bed. Nope. Now, this is a game where you're kind of mostly doing your own thing. You have your own cards where it's okay, I'm trying to get this combination, and you can look at the cards that are out on the table and try and plan for things. There can be a little bit of the chess type thing of ooh, I think this person's going for this thing and that's going to help them get enough to get this noble, so I'm going to try and stop that. But for the most part, there's not a lot of that cutthroat competitiveness to this. It's competitive in the well, I want to do the best that I can, but there's not a whole lot of sabotaging the other player that happens, which I think that's a really good aspect to have in a couples game. You don't want to leave the game night being you sabotaged me. Might not be the vibe that you're going for, or it may be. But all of the games that I'm going to be kind of talking about don't really have that competitive nature to it. It's more competitive in the I'm trying to do the best that I can, and that might kind of screw over your plan, but most of the time that's not intentional. Next, let's talk about Above and Below. I love this game. It's kind of like board game meets choose your own adventure, because there's the below aspect where you kind of delve down and explore, and you get to roll, and the other player reads these prompts from a book, and you can kind of choose what you want to do. And then there's also the top side where you're kind of drafting all of these different people and getting all these different resources. So it's a very interesting combination of, resource management and this like choose your own adventure story aspect to it. And there are so many different combinations that it's a very replayable game. Like most of the delving has a bunch of different results that happen depending on how you do. Some of them are multi-stage. And just the amount that you have, I really have not had one that came up where it was like, oh, I remember exactly what happens on this one. Maybe if you play it every day, that will happen. But the frequency we play it, it never has. I really love this game. This is a little bit longer of a game. It definitely takes a little bit longer to understand because there's more complexity to this. But I like that it is a very different game. So if you're introducing somebody to board games who maybe has only done Monopoly or the Game of Life, I think this is actually a really fun one to introduce them because it introduces this whole new idea of resource management and being a little strategic with it, but also this idea of you can tell stories and kind of create these little mini worlds with a board game. And I know for me, I usually end up coming up with a little kind of story for the little village that I end up creating in the above world. And then all of the stories that get told as they delve down to below. If you're interested in some more in-depth reviews of these board games, I will make sure to link and put little cards to all of the games that I mentioned. We've done full reviews for them, and I'll put them in the description and have some cards pop up so you can go check out those once you're done with this video. I could not do a 2-player game collection without talking about Parks. Parks is my favorite board game. I love that it is this game where you are exploring parks. You are visiting parks and collecting these cards to show which parks you've visited. It's the box design and game elements are just fantastic, top notch. It feels low stakes, but is very, very enjoyable. I've been able to sit around and we've chatted a little bit, especially after we got a good grasp of the rules and have played it. This is a little bit on the longer side. The box says 30 to 60 minutes. I think we usually end up being around the 45 to 60. 30 seems like a very quick game. I also like the conversations that have kind of gotten sparked by this game about oh yeah, I went and visited this park and we saw the elk at the Rocky Mountain National Park and telling that story. Or Ryan's talked about the times that he's been to Arches National Park. Or looking at something and being I would really love to someday go to this park. So it also is in that way a conversation starter, which is cool for a board game. And I'm very excited that Keymaster has announced that they're coming out with a Parks 2nd edition that combines a number of the expansion packs as well as some new mechanics and some updated pieces to it. Really excited to see what that is because the 1st edition was amazing. So I'm not really sure what additions or improvements they're going to do in a 2nd edition. Now, interesting, for as much as we love this game, I've actually not picked up any of the expansion packs, which I'm a little surprised by. I think maybe when they were coming out, I was planning on getting it at Gen Con and they sold out before I got there, or, I decided to put my board game money towards different games and was oh, someday I'll pick up the expansions, and then just have not gotten around to it. So we'll probably be investing in Park 2nd Edition when that comes out. And if you're interested in a review of that, let me know in the comments. A big thanks to all of our patrons, especially Tucker. If you like our videos and want to directly support us, make sure you're subscribed and then head on over to Patreon after this video. Patrons get early access to videos and other perks while helping us make more videos for everyone to enjoy. So as much as Splendor, I think, is our favorite like couples game, Imhotep, I think, has the most plays for Ryan and I. So you are playing as Imhotep and building the Great Pyramids and all of these other iconic structures in ancient Egypt. It is a resource management. Now, this one is perhaps the most like competitive of all of them, where you can definitely kind of, and especially as a 2-player game, see what the other person is going towards and potentially like make moves to kind of block what they are doing. But there are still kind of enough options that it's kind of like, okay, well, shoot, I was really hoping to get this thing, but I can still do this over here. Where it never has those moments in a couple of other board games or more competitive games where it feels like, well, shoot, now my entire turn is just wasted. Like, you never feel like your turn is wasted. You maybe just your top choice is no available available. You're moving these little blocks around on ships to get to cards, and I like that that's the mechanic. There aren't really any dice or cards or anything that you're really dealing with. There are a few cards, but that it's not a like card collecting or management type game. And each turn you kind of reset and add an additional thing. So it gets a little bit more complicated as you go on, but you're not like relearning the game. So it is a pretty quick game to pick up and teach somebody else. So I would definitely recommend Imhotep. And the last game on our list is Unearth. You're rolling dice, placing them on cards, and then getting to claim them once that card reaches a certain number of dice. So there's a little bit of strategy, there's a little bit of like a luck, as well as you are collecting these hexagonal tiles or stones and putting them into these little arrangements that also get you points. It's a nice game because there are kind of multiple ways to earn points. This is a very easy game to kind of take with you. We've taken this game to restaurants and played it, eaten lunch, played a game, brought it back home. So again, a nice like portable game. It plays pretty quickly. We've had games that have played through in under 30 minutes. So that's nice, where if you want to just pick up a board game and play one board game but not have it take an entire evening, or you want to be able to play like multiple rounds, multiple games of a single board game, or play multiple board games in a single night, this can kind of be like the appetizer board game to a longer one. It's fairly easy to pick up and teach, but I like the aspect of the dice and the tiles, as well as you have some like bonus cards where it's not so easy. There is some strategy to it, but also with the dice rolling, there's a good amount of luck. So there you go. Those are my 5 favorite board games for couples or significant others to play. What are your favorite games to play as a couple? Do you have games that are kind of, these are my favorite games to play as a couple, that are different than these are my favorite games to play like one-on-one with a friend? Maybe, maybe not. All of these games I've also enjoyed playing just one-on-one with a friend. There's nothing like that is like explicitly, you must be playing this with a significant other about it. I think they just fit very well into this competitive but also like fun aspect of a 2-player game. Now, none of these games are cooperative games. I have played some really great 2-player or multiplayer cooperative games, and I think those can be really great for couples as well, because it feels like we're in this together, we're working together. But I didn't do those in this video. And if you are interested in even more 2-player games, we did a whole video a while back about all of our favorite 2-player games. I'll put a link up there. And if you want a larger group of people, we also did a large group of people board game round up. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know, what are your favorite board games for couples? Are you going to be playing one for Valentine's Day? Ryan and I are planning on our traditional pizza and so bad it's good action movie. So if you know of any really good ones, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye. This is my favorite board game. Ta-da! Look at it. It's so pretty. The little bear.